The first thing that we need to do is establish a timeline of the series of events leading up to Pam actually receiving the teapot. Many of you will know that Michael goes around the office during the Christmas party taking photos with his digital camera. Now, we do actually have these photos. There are about 39 of them in total. For those who haven't seen them, you can jump over to the Anti-Strangling Task Force Reddit page. We've got all of them up there. A big thanks to Gypsy Trisha for bringing those to our attention. But these photos are actually additional evidence, and not just any evidence. They are critical in establishing the timeline that led to Pam actually receiving Jim's gift. The only problem is the photos are out of order, so we need to establish exactly when each photo was taken. The first photo that fits in the timeline is Dwight looking at his watch in front of the Christmas tree with all the gifts still underneath the Christmas tree. About 4 minutes and 50 seconds into the episode, Dwight tells everyone they've got 5 minutes to put their gifts under the tree, otherwise they're going to be disqualified from Secret Santa.
If you do not get your present wrapped and under the tree within the next 5 minutes, you will be disqualified from Secret Santa. All right? No exceptions, except Michael.
This first photo is Dwight looking at his watch, waiting for the countdown to finish. Then Secret Santa begins. The next photo in chronological order is Jim opening up Creed's gift. You'll notice it's a top-down shot, and if you look carefully in the episode footage, you can see Michael just for a split second with his camera having just taken that photo. The next photo is Dwight removing Jim's gift from underneath the tree. Dwight gives it to Stanley, Stanley gives it to Meredith, Meredith gives it to Ryan, and then Ryan gives it to Pam, which is actually our next photo. Once again, if you pay attention to the footage, you can see Michael standing up behind Pam, and this is the photo he takes of Pam opening up her gift. Now, the next photo that's taken, we don't actually have access to, and this is a really important point. This isn't the first photo that we see Michael take that are not released to us. Now, we'll get to that in a moment, but he takes a photo of Ryan opening up the iPod, but we don't have this photo. So immediately, as we start to build out this timeline, we need to ask the question, well, what happened to that photo? And we'll get to that in a second. Now, in the story of the episode, Michael gets his oven mitt, he gets really annoyed, he has his little tantrum, comes back in, and all of a sudden, he decides that we're going to play Yankees swap. We see Angela have a cry about this, and then we have the next photo. So the next photo is Dwight grabbing a red bag. We've got Michael sitting on his chair, dangling the oven mitt. If we go to the footage of the episode in slow-mo, this is the moment the photo's taken. Now, what you'll notice immediately is Michael is in the photo, okay? So Michael didn't take this photo. In fact, based on the general direction where the photo is taken, I posited to the task force that it's actually Pam who took this photo. Now, this is where the plot starts to thicken, right? We saw the photo that Michael took of Ryan's iPod, but we don't have that photo. So now we have a second individual implicated in the photo taking at Christmas party, which at this stage in our analysis, we have to assume that it's actually Pam who has deleted that photo. And for those new to this channel, it's critically important to understand that Pam is in fact one of the two Scranton Stranglers. I've linked that episode here for you. So we have evidence of a photo not taken by Michael. We also have evidence of a photo which we do not have access to, or we have to assume has in fact been deleted. Now, for the next few gifts open up during Yankees swap, Michael clearly doesn't have the camera anymore. We don't know if any additional photos have been taken, but for this particular moment in the episode, Michael does not have the camera. So Yankees swap continues. The office has its little cry. Michael then tells everyone that he got a bonus for firing Devon. Everyone gets super annoyed, gets up and leaves, and it's at this moment that the camera reappears. We can see Michael taking a photo of Meredith. This is now the second photo that is not available. So again, we have to assume this photo has also been deleted by Pam. We then have a batch of 3 photos that are sort of squeezed together in this moment. Michael takes a photo of Dwight in front of the tree with a teapot. He takes a picture of the tree. Now, we know this picture was taken around this time in the episode because the chairs are still around the tree. Later on in the episode, the chairs are removed to make a sort of makeshift dance floor, but we still have the chairs in front of the tree. Everyone has sort of just gotten up and left after hearing about Michael's bonus. We then have an additional photo again, with the chairs still in front of the tree, this time with Ryan and Angela in the photo. We can also see Darryl in the background in the doorway of the conference room. So Darryl has now arrived. And it's interesting that these three shots sort of fit together as a little grouping, and we do actually have another echo of the curse of 3 in this moment. And this isn't the first triple grouping in the photos either. So he takes the photo of Meredith, that photo's deleted, everybody gets up, he takes the photo of Dwight with a teapot, then he takes the photo of the tree, he walks over to the area around Jim's desk and takes a photo of Ryan and Angela. Now for those who've obviously seen the episode and are familiar with the narrative, Michael then goes to buy alcohol. And I can tell you now, while he's at the bottle shop buying the vodka, we have no photos taken from the time that he's at the bottle shop and when he returns back to the office. So based on that evidence, he's taken the camera with him, no more digital photos actually taken. Michael comes back from the bottle shop, now the photos start again. So the next photo in the timeline is Meredith in the conference room helping herself to some Christmas punch. Now when you look at the episode footage, you'll notice Meredith goes into the conference room. If you look in the background, you'll notice that the projector, we have the same projector image in this moment. So it's safe to assume Michael puts down the alcohol, mixes it into the punch, and then he starts taking photos again. Completely makes sense from a narrative perspective. Now the next 2 photos, I believe, are taken within the same sort of time frame. We've got a close-up of Angela, Phyllis, and Creed. Now again, if we go back to the footage when Michael's going into the conference room, you'll notice all 3 are in the same sort of general area. We don't see this particular image in the video footage, but based on the proximity they are to each other, the series of events that seem to fit most is Michael goes into the conference room, mixes the punch, he can now take photos again, he takes a photo of Meredith, walks out, now Angela and Phyllis are talking with Creed or are close to Creed, he takes that photo, then he turns around and takes a photo of Jim. So again, to go to this scene, as Michael enters the office with the vodka bottles, we see Jim sitting down. In fact, this is the only moment after the Christmas party begins that we actually see Jim sitting at his desk. So it makes most sense that Michael takes this photo next. And obviously we have a little bit of a depressed look in Jim's face because Pam's chosen the iPod, she didn't choose his teapot, right? So this now forms another curse of 3 stack of photos. And just to show you what I mean, here's the timeline in my editing software. You can see that we have a couple of examples of triple groupings for the photos, right? And it's another echo of the curse of 3. But back to our timeline. So he takes the photo of Jim, then Bob Vance arrives to the party. Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. We see Pam and Roy in the kitchen. We see Dwight playing with a teapot. And here's another moment where we see Michael with the camera. Now, I will say there's a sort of dual possibility here. He could be reviewing the photos he's already taken, but again, we've already had evidence of photos being taken that we don't have access to. So just based on that pattern, I'm going to assume Michael's taking another photo here, and this photo is also added to the list of photos that assumingly Pam has actually deleted. It's also important to take note who's in the vicinity of reception at this moment. We've got Kevin there, we've got Oscar there, we've also got Stanley, and what you'll notice is in the next batch of photos, a few more people start to group around reception. So the next photo is actually around Dwight's desk. So we have to, again, to track Michael's movements, he takes a few photos at reception because, you know, Michael's the sort of guy who's going to float around the party, right? He's taken his photos there, the photo that we do not have access to. He walks back to Dwight's desk and he takes this photo. Now, this is where a lot of photos are taken, guys, and this was probably the most difficult part of putting the timeline together. You'll notice Meredith is in the background, right? So initially we just had Kevin and Oscar in that vicinity and Stanley, right? Now Meredith has joined, and this is important because the next batch of photo and video footage help us to put the timeline together. So we got the photo of Dwight and his elf ears. The next photo is of Dwight doing the robot. You'll notice Meredith is still at reception, and now we have Oscar and Jim sitting on the couch. Now, because we had Kevin there, Dwight is probably blocking the view of Kevin in this photo. The next photo is Angela at reception with Kevin. We have to assume Meredith is there. We can see Oscar there in the background on the couch, right? So Michael has walked from Dwight's desk back to reception. He's taken the photo of Angela. You'll notice Pam is not at reception. The iPod is still there. Then we have video footage. If you look at the footage in slow motion, you'll notice that we have Oscar and Jim on the couch. Meredith, Kevin, and Angela are standing in front of reception. Michael goes outside the office into the corridor and takes another photo. This is another photo photo we don't have access to and has to be assumed to have been deleted by Pam. He then takes a photo of Oscar and Jim sitting on the couch, and we do actually have this photo. There we go. Then he walks back to reception, and Pam is now back at reception. So she left her desk, left the iPod there, came back, and she's now in the vicinity as well. And you'll notice Ryan now walks into the frame. So Michael takes a photo of Meredith in this moment. This photo is also missing, right? So we have, again, there's a number of photos that have been deleted. He does take a photo of Ryan, however. Here's the photo of Ryan in that moment. And now we have another cursive three-shot grouping. We've got Ryan first, then Michael turns around, takes a photo of Pam. He turns back, and Kelly has now arrived next to Ryan. This was probably the hardest shot to place in the timeline, but based on, Ryan's whereabouts, this seems to fit best in the narrative of the episode. So the next thing we see is now the office staff taking shots. Michael does take a photo in this moment, and we do have this photo. So Michael starts to rope in Ryan in this moment. Then we seem to have 5 shots taken, as in 5 photos taken in relatively quick succession. We've got the shot of Jim and Ryan next to each other. Ryan saying, "No, I didn't do anything." And you can see Angela in the background here, just like in the video footage. Then we have another shot of Michael and Meredith. And if you look at Michael's face, that's the face of someone who's taken another shot, right? Another shot of vodka. So he took the first shot, turns around, takes the photos of Jim and Ryan, turns back to the bench at reception, and has another shot with Meredith. Then clearly Ryan changes his mind. It's interesting because this is a particular case where the photos give us a little bit more of the story, Ryan says, no, I didn't do anything. But it seems like Ryan has a change of heart and then chooses to take the credit. So the next photo is Angela, Pam, and Kelly at reception. They've placed after the dancing, but prior to Jim arriving to the desk. Jim makes a comment on Pam actually sitting at reception and, not joining in the party. And that's what we see here. We see the same Pam sitting at reception and not joining in the party. Angela and Kelly have maybe gone over to talk to her. So at this stage, I'm assuming that this photo is actually taken prior to Jim's arrival. So I've placed this photo before Jim comes to reception. They start going through the teapot. Party continues, and who comes next? Todd Packer. He grabs Michael into a headlock, and these are the photos that we see next. Now this is an interesting photo, this particular one. We have an eye and we have a tie, right? So I think the creators are really telling us to sort of pay attention to the ties. We're not going to be doing that in this episode, right? But I just thought it's worth mentioning in this moment. We have a little bit of banter between Michael and Todd Packer, and we can see Michael takes a few more photos, and we do in fact have these photos. Packer being Packer, right? More Packer being Packer. Then we see Michael take another sort of portrait shot of Todd Packer, and we definitely have this photo as well. We can then see Packer and Meredith sort of, getting pretty loose on the dance floor together, and we do have a photo of this. Looks like Todd Packer's trying to, push Meredith down to the So then we see Michael give his Santa hat to Darryl, and he takes a quick selfie with Darryl. There it is. It's a great photo. Then we see Kevin sticking up, photocopies of his butt around the office, and Ryan pops over to him. Now, the next batch of photos are actually placed before Ryan goes over to Kevin. If we look in the background, we can see Bob Vance, and I believe a very brief glimpse of Phyllis with him. Now, this is another example of a 3-shot or 3-photograph stack. They're close to Phyllis's desk, which is where Michael walks from. He walks from these photos to Kevin. So first shot is just him and Phyllis, then him, Phyllis, and Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration. And then the final shot is Ryan, Phyllis, Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration, and Dwight. So this is a little 3-stack. These 3 photos are taken in quick succession. We then see Michael walk out of his office with a lampshade on his head, and yep, we do have this photo. Everyone seems to be having a jolly old time. It's what alcohol will do. Then we see Jim messing around with the totally drunk Todd Packer, and we do actually have photos of this as well. If we have a look at the photos of Todd Packer in this moment, you'll notice that we've got people standing in the background, and everyone's, having a laugh at his expense. Then the second last photo is Michael leaving the office because the party's over. This is just before Meredith enters his office. If you look at the footage closely in slow motion, you'll notice he's just taken a photo of himself. You can see him sort of lowering the camera. That's the photo, standing in front of his coat hanger. Now we do see Michael taking a picture of Meredith's boobs. We obviously do not have this shot either, so we have another deleted image. The last two photos I don't know where to place in the timeline. The first is a picture of Stanley and Creed. There just does not seem to be enough evidence, or perhaps I've overlooked something here. So this is one for you guys to try and work out where it fits. And the final photo is Michael's photoshopped image of Meredith in a bikini. Now, I think this shot's important for a number of reasons. As we're going to find out in this analysis, is we again have another reinforcing of the Photoshop motif. We have the example we covered in the Season 1 DVD cover analysis. With some Photoshop techniques, we were able to extract the clue from that. We've looked at Michael's photo with Jan, and we've proven that that was in fact also Photoshop. Another example where we use Photoshop techniques is actually the envelopes. In the second part of Gay Jimothy, we did very briefly discuss how there's actually 3 separate envelopes in the Teapot Letter Saga. Now this is reinforcing that concept. From an episode perspective, I don't know where to fit this particular one. So I know that was maybe a little bit laborious, guys, but we've now found a place for each photo within the narrative of the episode. And just to reiterate, for those who want to see the photos, you can go to the Anti-Strangling Task Force Reddit page. They are all there. As I'm sure you noticed as well, I've included the timestamps of the episode. I didn't include the deleted scenes. I have checked them out, and this could be a mistake of mine for now, but I don't believe it impacts our timeline for the photos. Just to keep things simple for everybody, we're just going off the primary episode without the deleted scenes, without the superfan material as well. So guys, please comment below if you have any ideas where the last 2 photos could fit. Join the Anti-Strangling Task Force on Reddit and, join in the discussion. We could definitely use some additional eyes on this.